Do 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 funky fantasy. Do 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 the bowl. Do 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 Stratozeros. Do 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 special guest edition. It's the War of Nerds. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the War of Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Helm.
I'm one of the other hosts, Alfred Muller.
And I'm Ryan Morgan, also known as Stratoceros.
And tonight we have a special guest, Mr. Daniel Harder. Sir, please take the floor and tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Daniel. I'm a long time friend of Nathan's. I work in technology, and in my free time, I like to consume sci-fi and anime and play video games. That's me.
Sounds like a good time.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Fantastic time.
Right up our alley.
Oh yeah, I checked all three boxes for nerddom right there.
Oh yeah.
All four.
And thank you for coming on the podcast. We're really grateful. It's
For sure.
nice to bring on people from different realms of the world with different jobs and from different walks of life. And yeah. And a fun short story before we get into the juiciness of this anime episode. Throughout the years, when both of us kind of moved, I went into trucking, Daniel went to his job and stuff in Arizona. We would we'll watch anime episodes together. So it's pretty cool. That's how we're able to
We make a solid
effort.
effort at least. We're doing countdowns to try to get it to sync up the video and stuff like that. Once upon a time, there was a service called Rabbit that made it much easier, and that's not around these days. So we struggle where we can.
And I think watch parties are the new LAN parties of our time. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
100%. Well, tonight, folks who are listening, we are diving deep into anime, everything anime tonight. And if we have some extra time at the end, we may even delve into some other nerdy topics. But let's, gentlemen, let's start at the list and let's talk about our favorite animes, our personal favorites. And then we'll go through and just talk about some individual ones and kind of break down the shows themselves. So if any of y'all would like to start us off, go for it.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Ryan,
Alfred.
you can go first. Okay, well, so at the moment, my all-time favorite anime, number one, can't be beaten, is Seven Deadly Sins. I know it's more of a newer anime compared to many others that we have on this list, and even the shirt I'm wearing, but the stories, the characters, the development, everything that Seven Deadly Sins has done from the 5 or 6 seasons they have to the movies, I'm in love with that series. I could sit and rewatch it back to back to back to back to back.
That's a good one. I'm all over the place, to be honest, when it comes to anime. Like, I will do slice of life. I will do epic long series. I started with Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon after school. They were on like right when you got home, and that was my first introduction to it. Now, the time I got reincarnated as a slime is literally like one of my favorites to watch, and I just love the way it does everything
Nice.
that it does and how it's developed into something different. And kind of like what you're talking about, the newer one, it's vastly different now than what it was, and I'm sure we'll get into that later, but how it's kind of evolved.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
How about you, Daniel?
I would say probably my favorite right now is going to be Attack on Titan. Before that, it was Seven Deadly Sins. I don't know why. I just like I like dark animes for whatever reason. So I'm attracted to those two in particular. It's pretty tied probably for long-term animes on those two.
For me, most people who know me know that the top of my list is One Piece for my favorite of all time. But that didn't become a thing until like later on. Daniel and I actually binged through all of Naruto together. This was after I'd watched the show and Shippuden. But that was actually my first favorite anime was Naruto. You know, when I was a kid, I would watch episodes of like Pokemon, Dragon Ball, Digimon if it was on like Tsunami or, any of the stuff that was on TV at the time. But it wasn't like I was like invested watching, episode after episode. It was just, oh, it's on TV. I'm going to watch it. So later in life, after Naruto, It was actually Daniel who got me to watch my next one, which was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and that one is in my top 3. It is one of the best written, not just for the story itself, how the story's written, but the way that the animation is done, the way the characters are designed, and the action scenes, and there's the depth of the story itself. It's really, really fantastic. So, yeah, One Piece followed by FMA Brotherhood. After that would probably be My Hero Academia, and then, no, I don't know. Probably Elfen Light after that. It's a really good short anime. It's a lot darker, but it's got a good story. And I just finished Attack on Titan. So that one finally made it into the top 10. For a while, it was just nothing. It was just a blink in an eye, but
You
it
gotta prep
destroyed me.
yourself for binging that one for sure.
Yeah. I would like to take a moment to just remember Toonami and how awesome that was. Like the
Absolutely.
greatest block of TV from our childhood. I mean,
Yep.
when I saw that little robot guy, spaceman in the ship, I knew that the night was going to get real. It was going to be fun, and I was going to enjoy every minute of it.
I 100% agree.
Ryan stole mine, so absolutely.
I love it. I would have to say that probably my top 5, or at least top 3, would be Seven Deadly Sins, Dragon Ball Z, and then I don't know if you guys have ever watched it. It was 2 movies, but Vampire Hunter D.
Mhm.
That was my actually first introduction to legitimate anime, and just the artwork that I saw portrayed in animation and the story itself, and you had a half vampire, half human character. Just all of it was unreal, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool thing. I didn't know what it was, and my dad was like, this is called anime. It's from Japan, blah 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 blah, and he explained it to me, and I was like, this is so cool. And then I found Dragon Ball Z and all the other animes.
Heck yeah. And I mean, back in the Tsunami days, like you were talking, Pokemon was one of the big, well, Pokemon, Naruto, Dragon Ball, those were the ones that were on the most consistently.
Mhm.
And One Piece would be on there as well, but I never actually saw any episodes of that when I was younger. Um, but Digimon and then just apart from that, just childhood TV in general. Think about the stuff that was on. Go go Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like that was the stuff right there.
Yeah.
Although I didn't get to watch that one because it was considered evil. So
Oh man, I feel bad. I watched that up until my teens.
I
Well,
snuck episodes in.
Good.
playing off of what you said there, like, and I'm gonna date myself with how old I really am here, but I used to record Digimon on VHS just to make sure I stayed on that
Kids
series,
these
like
days
up
will
and
never
current. Yeah.
understand
No,
having to rush home and then
set the
learning
VCR.
learning the trick where you like stop it while the commercial's going on and then
Yep.
hit record again before the show comes on, so you didn't have to worry about
Oh
commercials.
yeah.
And then the
That
worry,
that
oh my
brings me
god,
to
we don't have a blank VHS tape. What are we gonna do?
Override
that
everything.
bring exactly. That brings me to an around the world question. How many of you, what was your first recorded VHS TV show or movie that you used with your VHS recorder?
Oh man.
Daniel's
I know.
3-year-old birthday.
Nice.
That's what comes to mind.
It's weird. I don't think I recorded it, but I had Fern Gully, The Goonies, and The Last Unicorn all on the same VHS. And I don't know who recorded what, but that was like the earliest VHS my family had recorded. All 3 were on the same one.
That's awesome.
I think
What's that?
you go first. You go first, Nathan, because I'm still trying to think.
Do you remember GoBots?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So I actually had the GoBots action figures. And they're you will transform them into the, whatever it was. It was like a precursor to Autobots, basically.
Mhm.
It wasn't Transformers, but it was GoBots, and it was some similar things. So they had a TV show, but they also had movies. And so I would VHS record the GoBots TV show, and that was the first thing I ever recorded.
I think it was either it was the two that I really remember. It was Scooby Doo and the Boo Brothers, and Neverending Story 3. Uh, I remember those two
Classic.
being on VHS and recording those, but I don't remember if there was anything earlier. But I think Boo Brothers was the first one I recorded.
Doo-doo-doo-doo, where are you? You know, it sucks now because of what they're. The whole wokeifying Scooby-Doo is unbelievable, but you know, to each their own. Some people enjoy it. I prefer the old school Scooby-Doo, the animated TV show with all the cool adventures and all the mysteries. And do you remember the one episode or movie where they were at this themed water park and they were
Mhm.
escaping from a that was like one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
Maybe remember that. I remember a theme park for sure. Yeah.
It was like a theme slash water park, and they were running away from this like thing
Robot
that was
guy.
controlling. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Controlling the water slides and like the theme rides and all that stuff.
hmm
So
Man,
classic.
it
Every
was
single time a villain
Yeah.
comes up, it's just like, oh, you and your meddling kid. It's just always every monster turns out to be actually just like some old dude that
Yep.
was just had the weirdest plan ever.
I have
exactly.
an around the world question for everybody, and
Hit
I
it.
think I know where it's going to go. But what did you prefer, Pokemon or Digimon? More. Which one did you like more?
Pokemon.
Pokemon, 100%.
See, I was a Digimon fan. I actually didn't watch much of the Pokemon anime, but when it came to the games, I was 100% committed to Pokemon and catching all of them.
You know
But
that actually aligns when I think about it too. I probably watched more Digimon when I was younger than I did of the Pokemon anime. But I was a bigger fan of Pokemon just straight up because of the video games, and also I had some friends that had the card games,
mhm,
or a bunch of the cards, I should say. I didn't
yeah,
have any myself, but yeah.
So for me, I was Team Digimon. I mean, I watched the Pokemon the original series up through the Orange League, almost religiously. But as far as like, and I played the games nonstop and still do to this day. But the Digimon anime, I feel like just had better story than the Pokemon one. I felt like the characters actually had growth where Ash was always losing or just kind of
yeah,
overcoming things. But so there were some pretty awesome Digimon games. Like there was a Digimon card
mhm.
game for the PS1, which I loved playing, and Royal Rumble or Battle Rumble and Battle Rumble 2 for PlayStation and PlayStation 2 were pretty good.
Like even as a kid, I will say I think it was Angelmon and then Gatumon's story arcs of how they evolved are like they stick with me even to today of like the redemption arc for Gatomon and the oh this is a useless Digimon and then all of a sudden it's the most powerful when he turns into Angelmon and you're just like what?
Yep.
But
So we've all seen Dragon Ball, right? Every
mhm.
single one of us,
Parts of it, yeah.
or at least enough of it to talk about Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or some of us have seen the DBZ abridged by Team Four Star, so we
Yeah,
know enough
that's
about
me.
the story. Yeah. So I think the one thing that most people agree with when it comes to Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball universe, like, well, first of all, Toriyama forgot about one of the most like important characters being launched, and she just
Yeah.
like kind of disappeared off into nowhere. But that's okay. He even admitted, Toriyama said, "Yeah, no, I forgot." You forgot, bro? Well done. Yeah, nobody, no, it's not like anybody liked her by all means. Like Master Roshi was one of those characters, like, welcome into Master Roshi's place. Hey, Goku. Hey, Launch. Wait, where's Launch? And everybody just rolls an eye. They're like, I have no clue. Like, oh well. Like
That
what?
that's a common meme in the JoJo community. Or Rocky forgot.
Mhm.
Just layer after layer of JoJo, just like random threads not being closed and random like ridiculous crazy things happening in the story. He just uh pulls stuff out of nowhere in the storyline. Nathan hasn't watched JoJo's Bizarre Adventure yet. I'm trying to get you to do it.
I have. I've watched a majority of the first season. We've
Oh,
talked
you
about it.
did. That's right. I forgot you started. Yeah. You didn't finish it though, huh?
Speaking of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure,
Part two.
tell us, Daniel, why do you like JoJo's so much?
I just had a friend that was really, really into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it's like, I don't know, it's like the tropiest anime you can possibly watch, to be quite honest. So like it's kind of just fun to watch it just for the goofiness of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, and as you get into part two and part three, it really picks up, and it's very animated, if you will,
Mhm.
So
I
But
like that
remember,
description.
guys.
yeah.
Sorry, Ryan,
What's
what
it?
was that?
I was just gonna say the tropiest anime like that. That definitely is their title to take home forever.
100%, yeah.
But remember, guys, anime is not a genre. And I'm going to continue to use that as my throwback pitch to all the haters out there, because anime is a genre. But we're not talking about anime lit tonight, so I'll let that one
Oh,
rest.
we'll always talk about anime lit, just not always in depth.
That's true. Yes,
I
not
hope we
in
do.
depth.
I hope we do a one pod, not necessarily about anime lit specifically, but like do a genre one where we define
Mhm.
what genres actually are and show
Mhm.
that anime is a genre in and of itself and has subgenres that are the different animes we watch.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, because in our first episode, we already covered some of the stuff that falls into genres, and what genres actually are is just one big pool with a bunch of different things, with like a trickle down pyramid of all the little tiny things that just break down smaller and smaller and smaller, which breaks down the communities of people who follow said certain thing: grim, dark, anime lit, romantasy, whatever you're looking for specifically, and then from there it just goes down. But
Uh,
when it yeah.
I was just gonna, if you have something to say, go ahead. I was gonna name a different anime.
Oh no, that's what I was going to do. So if you want to go first, go for it.
Okay. Do you guys remember Gundam Wing?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
Every
I
single one of the Gundams.
I wanted to
Uh,
get into those when I was younger so much, and I never like I missed it. Like I was watching something and I had to go to bed, or I had turned it on. It was like the last 5 minutes. I was like, this show seems so cool, and I have not got to watch it. So now, as an adult, I've been sitting watching through all of it, and I'm enjoying it. I love war movies. I love war stories, and then to take that into the sci-fi realm and
Mhm.
add mechs, I'm like, it's such an awesome story.
And they took it like that universe to new heights because if you look at all their different Gundam series, they hit like so many different tones. They had like a childlike one, they had a competition with Mobile Suit Gundam, and then they had Gundam Wing, which was like the most serious of them all, with like you would fall in love with a character and the next episode that character is dying and you're like, wait, whoa, what? The main character is not supposed to die. And like they just like heart wrenched you in that one. And then they had like a chibi mini sized Gundam series too, but like they hit every note. But my absolute favorite one was like I think it's like Mobile Suit Team '08 or something, and they're not even in Gundams. They're just all in regular mechs. So they're not even like the OP ones. And like they're just in a jungle trying to stay alive from like guerrilla warfare. And it's like 8 episodes long or something like that. But it's one of my absolute favorites in that realm.
That's awesome. I haven't gotten to that one yet, but that's got me excited because,
Highly
like I said,
recommend it.
yeah, absolutely. Gundam for anybody who likes mechs, who likes, like you said, Ryan, basically hits every type of story you could deal with that, and it's just all around good.
Hmm.
See, I ain't never
See,
watched it.
Really,
yeah, I haven't either. I see it's a Cartoon Network, or it ran on
Mhm.
Cartoon Network.
Yep.
Looking here.
The original Gundams and like Toonami in general, I think there was like 3 separate shifts where the shows shifted because you were talking about Naruto and One Piece being on there, and they were actually a later grouping that Toonami came out with, but the originals were like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Trigun was one of them, which is a very
Cowboy Bebop.
underrated old one, Cowboy Bebop.
yep.
And then
Yep.
one of my personal favorite like sci-fi animes is Outlaw Star because they would have spaceships that would fight in space, but instead of like guns and lasers, they had grapple arms, and you would be like in a fist to fist combat with your ships. in space, and it was just such a unique twist on the sci-fi genre for me. But that one of my absolute favorites.
Don't forget Eureka 7 too. That was back in those
Yep.
days as well.
Mhm.
I got a buddy who's super into both of those, Eureka 7 and the other one, Trigun, that you were talking about. If I can get him on the show at some point in time, he's also a huge Halo and Star Trekky lore junkie. So he's a trucker though, so his schedule's even more sporadic and confusing than mine is, which you wouldn't think is possible, but it is. So we'll see. But
What
yeah,
one were
those.
you going to talk about, Nathan?
Well, I was going to talk about which one was it? I had it right on here, and I was looking for it. I was going to talk about the differences between Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. So for anybody listening, spoiler alert if you haven't watched all the way through the end of Shippuden, but original Naruto, you had about 250 episodes. It was around the same size as the original DB, Dragon Ball. And it was actually like the story itself was really good. Like you still had your goofy, like little filler episodes here and there, but not to the same degree as what Shippuden. Shippuden suffered from the same thing that DBZ did, too much filler, which is why they did DBZ Kai. That got rid of a lot of that filler. Shippuden doesn't have a Kai. You just have to be one of those like Reddit junkies or internet trolls and go like find like special pictures that show you what episodes to cut out to watch it all the way through without any filler. But the thing about Shippuden though is honestly the story is great, but there's a lot of characters that suffer from lack of development. They just kind of like let those characters, they're still there and they're still around, but they centrally focused on other characters instead of them. And that was a big thing that a lot of people got on Kishimoto about that, because it was just simply like, dude, what did you? These characters were awesome in the original Naruto, and now come Shippuden, you just like their arcs are just gone. Like I wanted more of this character, and that's what you run into when you have large casts of characters that people fall attached to. And if you decide to just go away from them, we talked about that with George R. R. Martin's Game of Thrones and the issues with not fulfilling character arcs and development after you already set them on a path, and then you're just like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna forget about them. But the fight scenes in Shippuden, the emotion in Shippuden during like the pain arc was the best arc of the show, by a wide margin. The Fourth Great Ninja War was fun too, just for the part of emotionally. A lot of characters getting raised with the reanimation jutsu, and a lot of characters getting to like reunite with like dead relatives and stuff. So there was a lot of like cool emotional tethers there, and getting to see some of the older Kages come back as well was really neat. But actually, Daniel and I talked about it at another time. It's like, what would you do if you would to rewrite Shippuden / Boruto, which I don't even want to talk about Boruto because
You just did.
really just,
You started it. Great job.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I don't want to, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to, because I have to mention Shippuden. They had Madara, and if they would have left the Fourth Great Ninja War as Madara's finishing arc and the final villain, and then have the fight with Sasuke and Naruto at the end, that would have been great. They could have left Kaguya Otsutsuki for Boruto as the final villain and lead all because that's what they were doing in Boruto. They brought all the Otsutsuki clan members in from like, I thought they were all gone. I thought Kaguya was the last of them. Like the Sage of the Six Paths, like never even brought up any more of the Otsutsuki clan. So that just magically came from like the moon or some random crap that the show writer put in there, because Kishimoto didn't do Boruto. He straight up came out and said, yeah, I had other stuff I want to do, so I just gave it to somebody else.
Yeah, the whole show's a money grab, straight up. It's just an addition. It wasn't written into the original story for sure. But if it had been, like you said, they could have made Kaguya the actual villain in Boruto. Would have made a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. And
that brings me to a question. Sorry, you finish your thought, Nathan, if it had to tie into that.
No, that was my thought. Daniel finished it for me, so we're good. Like, that was my thought.
And Nathan, you and I had kind of had a conversation about this, but where do we think the the line is for the proper amount of time for an anime. Like we have animes that are thousands of episodes long, and then we have anime that's only 8 episodes long. So where do we think, is there a perfect medium, or is it just when the story's told, it's told? Uh, Especially for this type of genre, when do we think that there's a good number? And let me just, I'm sorry to keep going on, but I want to preface it by saying so many people with anime, and I don't feel like many other things get this. It's always, oh, I wanted more. I wanted a little bit more. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's unique to anime as opposed to other outlets.
I'll chime in
So
there if you don't mind.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go for
yeah,
it,
go for
Daniel.
it.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna Attack on Titan fanboy a little bit here. So Attack on Titan was written backwards. The author knew the ending before he knew the beginning. So he started with the end of the story, and because of that, he was able to foreshadow a lot of stuff that was going to happen later on. It's really fun to dig into the lore, or it has been for me since I finished the two specials quite recently. But I think it just it kind of goes back to, whatever the best stories are written in a way that they have complete story arcs and are written in poetic ways like that, in my opinion. So whatever serves the story, that's the length that it should be. So it could
Mhm.
be a shorter story that's only 8 episodes, as long as it serves the story well. I find that things that are kind of extended past their point, they don't tend to be as good, in my opinion. But there are, it's like, slice of life animes and stuff that are kind of designed not to be some masterpiece of story writing. They're meant to be entertainment, and everything has their place. So it kind of depends, but for my preferred type of anime, definitely I would say just kind of whatever the story demands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll add on to the back of that. So it's like with writing, the story is what it is. We always focus on word count, we always focus on page count, but really at the end of the day, the story will be however long it's going to be, because the story is the story. When you try to stretch, or you try to nitpick focus on shortening something because you're worried, like that's when things suffer. When something's too short, or when it's too long, instead of letting it be what it's going to be. So for example, you've got short animes like Daniel mentioned that are like 8, 15 episodes. Elfen Lied is one of them. Cowboy Bebop's a short anime. It's only like 20 something episodes. Even Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is relatively short in the grand scheme of animes, only 60 something episodes. So, but you've got animes like One Piece that are 1,000+ episodes still going, but it's because the story is still going. He's not trying to stretch the story by any small means. We haven't had really hardly any filler in One Piece. It has legitimately been Luffy's journey from the beginning, wanting to be the king of the pirates, to getting through the Grand Line, to meeting all of his enemies, either beating them or learning that he wasn't strong enough, running into other peoples and learning about the lore of One Piece, which is actually quite deep when you really dig into it. And then eventually the ending goal, to become the king of the pirates. And so while you probably could have removed some of the arcs, could have been shorter. Daniel and I have talked about this on length before, that the fights were kind of drawn out, that really they could have been finished in like 5 episodes. Here's the fight. This is what happened. Boom, it's done. Instead of jumping all around, like we're going to start the fight for one episode, and then we're going to skip to another group of people in La La Land doing whatever, who knows. So, but One Piece is probably the best anime I've seen that doesn't suffer from the same thing that Naruto and DBZ did, with excessive filler. Does it have filler? Yes. I don't think there's an anime that doesn't have it, but
At least not
at least,
longer ones have it to some
Yeah, some of
extent.
the
yeah.
short ones are very well done in that regard of not having it, but I definitely agree. I haven't watched One Piece all the way through, so I can't speak on it, but I definitely think some of the villains or some of the arcs aren't necessarily cohesive to the very end of it. So they can be brought in, they could be pulled out, and it could still be the same story. Is it better with them in it? A lot of fans probably think so. Dragon Ball Z obviously has, you do not need to go Super Saiyan for 8 episodes. You can do it in 2. But
Yeah.
we the ones of us that had to wait day by day for that episode to come out and couldn't binge it because we were waiting for that episode to be released, like it was an agonizing 2 weeks before we finally got the payoff. And back then it was worth the payoff to us. But now going back and watching it, it's almost painful to watch. So they've come out with these like abridged, I think it's Kai or something like that, where they've shortened down the episodes and made it better. So I to kind of agree with Daniel there, it should be as long as it needs to be. Shorter stories have their purpose. They get it done well. They're concise. If you do it right, it's very good. Longer stories, like what Nathan's saying with One Piece, it hasn't reached its end and the story is still continuing. If it's not drawn out, that's great. It can be 10,000 episodes if you can keep the fans engaged for 10,000 episodes. But it's just a matter of keeping that story going. But I think there are several animes, and I'm drawing a blank on specific ones, but that have reached a conclusion and tried to go further just to fall flat because they've gone past where they should have concluded. And Pokemon's a good example of that. I mean, Ash should have won the championship long before he did, or you've just wasted him going through the different continents. But
the way I look at that is almost like, okay, so he made it to the Olympics and he failed. Okay, let me go to Division 2 and see if I can win. All right, let me go to Division 3 and see if I can win. Let me try a high school tournament and see if I can win. That's kind of how I viewed it. Like he's moving from one to one to one, and it's like, is it really as competitive as the Indigo League, the top league everyone goes to? Or are they like minor leagues that he's just trying to finally win a tournament? So I kind of got bored with it at that point. For me, Dragon Ball Super has kind of gotten to the point where it's like, it should have ended. Like, I was always one that wanted more Dragon Ball, but seeing what it is now, I'm kind of like, I could have taken it or left it. What were you going to say, Nathan?
I'll fight someone over Dragon Ball Super, just as an FYI. I love Super. I think it's fantastic. The Tournament of Power gave me writing inspiration for my books. So
we have a War of Nerds topic. We have a War of Nerds.
But we will have a War of Nerds on that.
And I think like even those extended seasons can be good, but they can still feel shoehorned in, you know? They can still be good in their own right, but not fit very well with the rest of the series. I haven't watched, Dragon Ball Super at all, so I don't know anything about it, but
it's with the last thing I'll say about One Piece, because we're not going to really dive super deep into it. We could, but with the fact that it's been going as long as it has, it's approaching 30 years, and the fan base is the largest fan base in all of anime. That means something right there. Even though it has its flaws, even though it has parts of filler that the Foxy arcs are just pointless, and no one wants to. No one cares. Go away, Foxy. You look like an upside down squash, and I really don't want to look at your face. However, there were parts in the Foxy arc that were still kind of fun. And that's the thing about One Piece. These characters are goofy and like over the top that you're like, what? But you laugh and have a good time with it anyways. Even though you'd rather be on to the next arc and following the crew, you still find a little bit of joy because it's One Piece and you just can't help it. But to each their own. Some people have more fun with other arcs. I still say Water 7 / Enies Lobby is the best arc of the whole show. It's really hard to touch it emotionally and just choreographically and story-wise. It's beautiful. And One Piece has got a couple arcs like that are like up. Like Wano's really good. It's long, but it's very, very good. Wano, Water 7, Enies Lobby, Alabasta, and Skypiea are probably, in my opinion, the best arcs. And Daniel and I have talked at lengths too about Skypiea because it's a very controversial subject for One Piece fans. They think it's a garbage arc. I think it's fantastic. So
I think it's great, but I agree it doesn't fit into the rest of the story. At least it hasn't yet. It probably won't.
It's like with Kingdom Society, right? Book 2 kind of doesn't fit with the rest of the story, but you know this, Daniel, but it still adds something to the following arc for the characters themselves.
Yeah.
And Skypiea did that for Luffy and his crew. Whether or not the actual arc itself and having to listen to the over and over again. You learned about hockey for the first time, even though you didn't realize it in present time. You learned about hockey, and you learned that there was stuff outside of the universe that people didn't even know about, like the Sky Island and the lore building back to the characters on the ground, talking about how it doesn't exist, this and that. So there were parts about it that made it a rewarding arc, I think, for the characters themselves. But like as with any anime goes, you can't please everyone, just like with books.
Oh, well, certainly, yeah. And again,
You
I
know,
wasn't talking down on One Piece either, but just
no, I know that.
yeah. But
And you
this
can
kind of
War of Nerds.
absolutely, yeah. So kind of backtrack a little bit for us. We've all talked about this in the past on a previous episode, but for Daniel, since he's joining us now, what draws you in with anime, or like what really is your favorite thing that it brings that you don't think other genres, shows, books bring for you?
Great question.
Actually, I'm really jealous because that is a good question. Dang it.
That's what
Someone
we
else
do
want to
here.
go first on that one? I'm not even
So
sure.
that's for you, Daniel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've
For you, man.
All right, alrighty.
we've
Oh,
kind of
shit.
answered this in the past, but just to kind of give you something to think about. But it's like, what of it that you see as a theme or a trope throughout most of the animes you see is what kind of draws you into it, as opposed to like when we grew up, Saturday morning cartoons or superhero cartoons. They're still cartoons, but they're vastly different from anime. What of anime really is like, oh man, I'm here for this.
I'm actually an anime adult. I didn't really watch. I watched like a little bit of Naruto here and there when I was a kid, but didn't really watch much of it. Lots of cartoons, but really not much anime. So, um, I actually started watching Naruto as my first anime too because Nathan convinced me to watch. He was like, "Dude, like I'm in an arc in Shippuden. Like, please just watch this with me. I can't not watch this right now." I was like, "All right, whatever. I'll watch this shit with you. I'll do that." And so I watched a couple episodes. I was like, "This is actually kind of good." So I like started watching from the beginning, and I enjoyed it all the way through, and have expanded my palette since then. So I don't know. I guess the exaggeration of it, uh you watch superhero movies that have decent CGI, it takes a huge production to make that happen. You watch an anime, you don't really need that. Creativity is kind of the limit when it comes to that, and I think that's what makes it kind of special. And you can do weird wonky things in it, and once a person's adjusted to anime and watching it, uh the suspension of disbelief that comes with that is now accepted, and the sky is just kind of the limit. You can have whatever you want to happen.
That's cool.
Congratulations, you kind of nailed everything we've said in the past without
All
knowing it,
right,
so
cool.
Yep.
absolutely.
And on top of that, we talk about a lot of, you'll ask a lot of indie authors, especially us and people we've interviewed, if you could have your book be turned into an anime or a live action, which route would you go? And usually the most concise 90% of the time is always an anime. For that explicit reason, creativity is the limit. You can have a $5,000 project where you can just blow the roof off with like special effects, explosions, fights, all that stuff that would cost millions in a live action CGI type atmosphere. And Alfred's brought it up before, the emotion that you get when you watch anime is so much different than when you're watching live action. There's not many live actions I've watched that bring tears to my eyes, but anime has done that to me on countless occasions. So they're doing something right.
Yeah. Just to kind of play off of what you're talking about with the emotion, I know I mentioned it earlier, but the time I got reincarnated as a slime has one of like the most like subtle shifts in POV that most people don't pick up on. But when he first gets turned into the slime, and he's going, spoiler alerts here, he's going through, it's all episode 1 though, he's going through his transformation, he starts speaking as if he's not the slime, he's still in his old body. And then as it goes through that scene, he starts shifting into, no, I'm doing this. No, that's me doing this. And it's such a slow change of the verbiage he uses that most people don't pick up on it. But if you go back and watch that, it shifts POV and like brings you into the transition he's going through without you even realizing like his mind's making that adjustment. And it's just like blows me away when I actually watch that back
That's
over
cool.
again. Yeah.
That's
So
super cool.
with
Good subtle details.
yeah, I mean that's something that we strive for when we write, and to have that and be able to pick up on it and be like, I like what you did there. That was amazing. It's so cool that other genres of writing have that. Um, but I was gonna say, with the emotional side of anime and Seven Deadly Sins, I don't remember what episode it was, but it's when Meliodas is kind of confronted with his dark demon side. I guess spoiler alerts if you haven't watched it, but he's sitting by the campfire and Elizabeth puts her arm around him and he just starts crying. And Meliodas hasn't cried to this point. He hasn't shown much emotion. He's a happy guy. He's always perky. And he's gone through such a traumatic event, and it's the season finale. And she just puts her arm around him and says, "It's going to be okay." And he just starts bawling his eyes out after he's just confronted his darkest self. And you don't really get that with other things. Like anime is able to
No.
take you to those really sad, emotional, dark places. But my favorite part of it is it brings you out. Most of them do. Attack on Titan did not. But other shows, the ones that I really enjoy, tend to bring you out of that dark and show you that you can be reborn or grow out of it. And that's why it's my favorite at this moment.
Yeah, Attack on Titan takes your soul out of your body and then it stomps on it for 4 consecutive seasons and never gives it back to you. But at the very end, you learn that the premise of the show was to show you the darkness of humanity, that everybody has inner demons and things that they struggle with, and that no one was the bad guy. It was just there's evil in the world, and that really was the premise of the story, to show you just there's darkness in the world, and it's how do you live with that? How do you handle that?
Yeah.
Were you gonna? You looked like you wanted to add to that, Daniel.
Well, have you guys watched Attack on Titan?
I've
Have you
watched
finished it all?
I haven't.
I don't want to spoil it for you guys, so I'm not going to say
I
it.
already spoiled it for Alfred, so you're good.
Yeah, my family watched it all the way through and have spoiled it for me, so you're good.
Okay, well, I'm going to spoil the very, very ending. So huge spoiler alert. Basically, like, kind of at the end, you sure, Ryan? I don't
Yeah,
want to ruin it. Okay.
it's kind of grim for me, so be
All
my
right.
guest.
The rumbling ends up happening. Which the rumbling is basically the Titans in the walls go out and they destroy the world. And Eren is the one that causes the rumbling, and he destroys 80% of the world before they manage to stop him. And it's really, really dark. It's really messed up. But then at the end of it, the Titan abilities are gone forever. They're never coming back. And it seems like this horrible thing has happened because it has. Like it's basically just like war has destroyed everything. But then they managed to actually make peace at the end of it all. There's like an end credits scene, and it's showing the characters that survived. They grow old. They visit Eren's grave, and it kind of just has like a time lapse at the end credits in the last episode. And you actually see the city start to change. You see it grow. You see um, it transform into having skyscrapers eventually. You see it transform to have like a futuristic land cityscape beyond what we even have in our modern society right now. And then you see it all get bombed to nothing. And this is, mind you, when you see the bombing happen, this is probably 20,000 years in the future or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then and then there's like a kid walking through the ruins of the city, and he finds a tree, and the tree is just like the one that the original Titan had gone, or the original founding Titan lady had gone into, that like latched onto her, that caused the Titans to be formed in the first place. So the point is like really brings around the cycle of life. There's peacetime, there's war times. That's just kind of that's just how life is. But there was probably like a peacetime of like 20,000 years before everything cycled back through again, which, I think there is kind of a message there that it's like it was acknowledging, hey, it's not all, terrible, but war is horrible and it can destroy all these good things. And I thought that was just like a great ending. So
That does remind
Yeah.
me also, like, anime is probably the only genre outside of, or only medium as well, outside of books where you get like an epilogue. Because that's like Digimon did that all the time when their series season ended. They do like an epilogue. So many different animes have like an epilogue. DBZ did it when Dragon Ball Z originally ended, and all this stuff. And it gives you closure. Like, even though the story you may want it to go on, that ending scene has such an emotional attachment to it too, because you're like, it's coming to an end, and I'm getting all these feelings, and it's the story's closing. All of this closure is occurring, and it just, I don't know what else to say about it, but that's something unique to anime, I feel.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very few and far between in other places that you find that, but I do agree with you there.
I remember with Shippuden, it kind of ended. I mean, it ended on a pretty positive note. I mean, Naruto and Hinata get married, which was something that they teased since the very beginning of Naruto. I mean, not so much on Naruto's side. He was never really paying attention to any girls except for Sakura, and then he just grew completely out of that and didn't care about girls. He just wanted to be Hokage. But Hinata always was like, you know, you can do it, Naruto. And she was like always going after him. And anyways, the sorry,
just took me off guard. It's all right.
Naruto. But the death scenes in anime are portrayed in a way that aren't in live action. I mean, live action feels more like real life, sure, because you see all the blood, you see all the gore. It, like, watching NCIS or, Blue Bloods or whatever, shows like that. But it's connected to said character for so long, and now you're watching them, and it's the internal dialogue that they do, that internal thought, which is quite like how I like to write. Really, I love to do a lot of inner thought because I write third person POV. If you're first person POV, everything's from their head. But point being, have you guys seen Shippuden, Ryan, Alfred?
I just the original.
I don't want to like spoil and ruin stuff for you guys, but
It's
You're
okay.
all right. We don't have to
Okay.
delve deep into everything, but
Yeah, you're good.
yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say there's one particular character in Shippuden that dies that really hits hard. It's a character close to Naruto and quite a few others. And Naruto didn't even find out about the death until after it happened. He was off training on Mount Miyabuku. And so by the time he comes back to face Pain, which is voiced by Matt Mercer, somebody we were talking about, Alfred, the other day, but Pain's just there just like, yes, Jiraiya Sensei once said that. He's like, you called him Sensei. He was your... That's right. And then I killed him. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, straight up, just like no emotion to it from the villain. But this is Naruto's first time finding out that his former master was killed. And the emotion in that scene when like Hinata just straight up gets just speared in front of him, just completely just ground pounded. And the explosion of just emotion and everything. And I can't think of live action that makes me feel the same way, except maybe for when Tony Stark died in Endgame. That was pretty sad.
But that also took,
but
what, 15 movies?
Yep.
Yeah.
To pull
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
But you saw it coming. So it wasn't the same sadness as when you don't see something coming. They just take your heart, they pierce your soul, and you're not getting it back. Okay? Ever. Now I have a question, an around the world question. For as animes go, or anything that's been animated as a TV show, do you guys have a favorite video game edition if it was made into a video game or a type of anime video game that has been put out that you enjoy playing on any system.
Just because they're about to release number 4, Dragon Ball Z Budokai. That was my favorite MMO kind of game growing up.
Okay. How about you, Ryan?
I mean, I want to go with Pokemon, but to be honest, I'm going to throw a curveball here. And the Street Fighter games were always big with my group of friends when we were younger. And I will
Nice.
say they're some of the better old school cartoons that they're very short. They weren't very long, but like they fit a lot of different character stories into a couple episodes. And some of them, like the Dark Ryu Kuma storyline, was just like a very well done, masterfully animated movie. So I mean, that probably that one. And it didn't take 8 episodes.
No. Super Smash Bros. Ryu. No.
What about you, Daniel?
I guess I don't really have an anime that was adapted to a video game, but Castlevania was adapted from a video game to an anime or animation. I'm not sure if it counts as an anime, but
it's probably in the realm between the two.
Yeah, it was good. I loved Castlevania. I never actually played the video game. That's actually one. I'm more of a gamer than I am an anime fan, probably. So it's kind of interesting that I'm the other direction. But yeah, that would kind of be what I would think of.
Since we're already kind of segmenting with these last few minutes that we have on the podcast, let's talk about video games. I'll throw my anime one out there. I really liked Ultimate Ninja Storm 4. It was a Naruto, like very similar to Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter or anything like that. But you can play the campaign, you can go through and you just fight all these characters. You can put certain characters together. So on the screen when you're selecting, just like in Super Smash Bros., there's little symbols and signs. And you can figure out what characters combined have special team attacks. And it's really cool. So you like hit XXY and, you know, Naruto and Sasuke will go together with like Kurama and the Susanoo and do like this crazy team attack. And this like, it's a really, really fun game. So I like that. But let's just go around the world really quick. Favorite gaming systems. And I think that'll take us to our end time.
Xbox is mine at the moment. I do enjoy some PC games that just don't translate well onto console. But I'd say Xbox and then PC.
Yeah, for me, it's almost entirely PC nowadays. But we've talked about this in the past. I still use my Switch when I'm mobile and playing stuff on that. But so many games right now for me are just straight on the PC.
I always forget the Switch, but that's definitely a good one too.
Mm-hmm.
PC Master Race. All the way. I do have a Switch as well. I don't play it that much, but I've got one. Nintendo is something I kind of grew up with, and then when I was a teenager, I switched to PC and didn't really look back. So
good decision.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I have an Xbox Series S and I have the Nintendo Switch. Though I just discovered you can play Xbox games with your Game Pass on basically anything, your phone, your tablet, your laptop. So I'm going to be logging in once I get my controller up and running onto my laptop and just playing some games. I haven't played video games in like over a year, if not longer. I've been too focused on book writing and everything else, but I think it's time for a gameation. And that's a game vacation for those of you who don't know the word that I just made up.
Had to process that one.
Gamevation. There we go. Gamevation. Or a vacay game. I don't know. Never mind. Ignore this, please.
We're leaving it in. There's no post edit for that.
That's all right. I'm okay with that.
In fact, make a clip of it. Let's put it on YouTube.
Oh, we definitely.
For any of our listeners,
we need some.
We do.
If I go out and find this as a new meme, I will be okay with it. All right. So
I do want to say
thank you
before
so
we log off,
yeah,
because we didn't mention Yu Yu Hakusho. It's one of my favorites, but not just Yu Yu Hakusho, but the tournament style arcs in anime is what one of my favorites is. Like Dragon Ball had it, and it's almost lighthearted. In even though like Dragon Ball played it up, I mean Yu Yu Hakusho had it basically the fate of the world was in the balance, but the tournament style fighting where it's like, yes, we're trying to destroy the world, but if you can defeat us in single combat all the way through, then we'll back off. It just I love those fighting style arcs that you only really get in anime because it is influenced by Japan.
100%. And for any of our listeners, thank you all so much for the support that you've shown us through this first season. Leave comments on YouTube, or I believe Spotify allows you to. I just found that out the other day. So anywhere that you're listening to our podcast, please leave comments on any ideas you have for future content. If you have a special profession or a super nerdy thing and you would like the chance to be entered into a little box of names where we choose guests, special guests for the future, let us know. We're just trying to do creative stuff with the podcast and make it unique, but also a fun time where we bring on new people like we did tonight. But yeah, Daniel, thank you for coming on the show and hanging out with us tonight and just talking nerd stuff.
And we're gonna have to have you come back and talk specifically about video games too in the future.
All right,
Absolutely.
sounds good. I'm down.
Absolutely. And I don't have to worry about giving our socials to y'all because thank you to the lovely Ryan Morgan. His wife is doing some cool little edity, stuffy tech stuff to our videos. So our little socials will be right underneath where I'm pointing right now. And it's pretty cool how that stuff works. So, and we're a couple weeks away from having a little intro song too. So you won't have to listen to me do the weird do 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 do. Yeah.
I think season 1's gonna have all those included in the episode. I don't think we take those out. I think they're
Yeah,
perfect.
these are season 1.
They're included until we have the intro thing. Maybe that'll be a season 2 start. Season 1 is raw.
For anybody who's listening to this after we release it, we recorded all the episodes at once and then put them out. So if you're like, wait a minute, what? That was in the previous episodes too, because we recorded it all at once. So
That's my precious. But yeah, so basically, that pretty much is it's a wrap. Everybody go home, like Admiral Akbar says. But I think that's about time for tonight. So y'all know where to find us on the stuff. Thank you so much for joining us again. Daniel, our special guest, it was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you for having
And
me.
until the next time, do 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 funky fantasy, do 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 the bowl, do 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 Stratocero, special guest Daniel Harder, do 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 do. It's the War of Nerds. See y'all next time.